Hello there, fellow Dungeon Masters! Today we're diving into the heart-pounding epic of 1986's B10 Adventure module, Night's Dark Terror. And if there's one part you absolutely must steal, especially for the upcoming Shattered Obelisk campaign, it's the thrilling opening act, the Siege of Sukiskyn. I'm telling you, it's the kind of encounter that'll inject some serious adrenaline into your Dungeons & Dragons sessions. Now, I've run this encounter 3 times, twice straight from the module and once seamlessly woven into my homebrew campaign. So stick around to learn the connection between this great module from the 80s and this generation's most well-loved adventuring town, Phandalin. Now, let's take a quick trip down memory lane. B10 Night's Dark Terror, penned by the legendary trio of Jim Bambara, Graham Morris and Phil Gallagher, was designed to bridge the gap between basic and expert in the Beck-Me rule set of the 1980s, and came with maps and counters needed to play a siege. For me, this module was the gateway drug into grid-based combat in D&D, which eventually spiraled into an expensive Warhammer addiction that I've never looked back from. It's the main reason I prefer grid-based combat in my 5th edition games over Theatre of the Mind. Night's Dark Terror is a veritable treasure trove of adventure, kicking off with the Siege of Sukiskyn and ending with a showdown against a sinister thing in the pit in a forgotten valley. This module's got it all: evil slavery organizations, feuding goblin tribes, and a complex interplay between 2 unique species in a lost valley. But let's zoom in on the siege at Sukiskyn, because trust me, it's the timeless gem waiting to be plucked from the eye of a demon statue. Picture your party arriving at a remote homestead nestled at the base of the Black Peak Mountains, only to find it ablaze at sunset, swarmed by goblins. A wild chase ensues, with goblins riding direwolves, and your adventurers will join forces with the homestead's residents for a harrowing, dark night of terror. The homestead is a perfect battleground, with sturdy outer walls, open fields to the north and east, a river flanking its west and south sides, and a formidable stone tower as the last bastion of defence. As night falls, the natural woodland serenity is interrupted by relentless drums from 2 allied goblin clans, as your adventurers and brave NPCs band together to survive the night. Picture children and farmers huddling in the basement, warriors gutting windows and doors, and the stables already ablaze with lives lost before your heroes even arrived. Be ready to hear your players shout, "I have dark vision!" repeatedly as panic takes hold. My personal favourite moment of the siege is when the party hears screams from a woman in the forest. Is it a desperate hostage or a cunning goblin trick? I won't spoil it, but I've run it both ways for maximum stress-inducing roleplay. The siege persists until dawn, culminating in an epic showdown with one of the Goblin Kings. It's exactly the kind of action new and old Dungeons & Dragons players crave. Now, in the age of 5th edition and a growing focus on role-playing, this scenario adapts beautifully to modern tables. Here's how I tweak it. The multiple forays during the night align perfectly with the short rest mechanic. Also, the accessibility of stealth to all character classes allows for some creative player actions. The war drums of the goblins are incessant all night, but can stop at random times to add tension to the scene. I like to add very easy wisdom saving throws for the PCs and NPCs to see if any of them lose their mind and need to roll on the Dungeon Master's Guide short-term madness tables. To offset 5th edition's power creep, I throw in a goblin shaman or 2 amongst the attackers. Spells like Darkness and Fog Cloud can counterbalance Dark Vision, while Shatter comes in handy for a quick door-busting action. And for a fun twist, toss in a Nilbog from Volo's Guide to Monsters. They're a blast to roleplay, especially when they're essentially immortal, bouncing between goblins and driving your players to frustration. Check out my Bard ChatGPT guide to help with role-playing a Nilbog. Now, if your characters are high level, consider adapting some of the specialized ogres from Mordenkainen's Tomb of Foes or Monsters of the Multiverse. Picture a walking siege tower enabling goblins to climb over the walls, or an ogre with a goblin catapult causing chaos. Now, the bit you've all been waiting for. Let's connect the dots to Phandalin. In the Essentials Kit adventure, Dragon of Icespire Peak, Sukiskyn matches the footprint of Falcon's hunting lodge, a little Easter egg the designers put in to give some homage to their predecessors. While it's only described as a modest quest hub in the beginners module, owned by Falcon the Hunter, he helps Waterhaven nobles hunt orcs for sport. So it's not far-fetched to imagine players getting ensnared here when orcs seek vengeance on their orc hunting owner and his noble customers. But recently, there's an even better tie-in, with the new Phandalin adventure just having dropped, the Shattered Obelisk, featuring psionic goblins hunting for obelisk fragments in and around Phandalin. Who's to say the goblins aren't looking for a fragment at the lodge? I absolutely love snatching this scenario from Night's Dark Terror because it's a perfect siege for players ranging from newbies to about level 8. You can reimagine it as a Seven Samurai standoff, a zombie survival nightmare, or an epic Helm's Deep style siege.
At dawn, look to the east.
And if you can't snag a copy of the old module, use the Essentials Kit map and your imagination to fill in the gaps. To wrap this up, a couple of other gems from this module I enjoy swiping, including Treasure Ownership. The final challenge involves defeating the big bad evil guy and raiding a temple. However, the temple isn't technically abandoned, and if your players assume everything they find is theirs, brace for showdown with the townsfolk. Remember, not everything that glitters is theirs. Horde politics and morale. With 3 main goblin clans raiding the region, the power dynamics can create problems for the party or opportunities to manipulate the feuding tribes. Injecting this complexity into your campaigns lets a small group of heroes shape the outcome of a larger conflict. The Ice Wolf. This adventure introduces a special monster, the Ice Wolf. This creature was one of my favorites from the 1990s SSI computer games, and it has survived all the way through to the 5e monster manual as the Winter Wolf. It's stuck up the back with the animals and critters. If you're running Dragon of Icespire Peak and want to spice up the final dragon showdown, throw in some pet ice wolves to keep the overpowered parties in check. Or why not upgrade a few of the goblin wolf riders in the siege to these beasts? So that's a wrap. This module means the world to me, and I mostly started this channel with the prime purpose of sharing this encounter with you all. It was my first foray into dungeon mastering and what ignited my passion for tabletop wargaming. I hope you find as much joy in it as I have. So until next time, may you roll well and more importantly, roll often.